Thomas Doolan was a 59-year-old from New London, Connecticut. He had one daughter and had worked paving roads. On December 6th, 2019, Thomas made a frantic call to his daughter. After that, Thomas did not return to the sober house where he lived. He was never seen again. I'm Ed Denzel, and this is Unfound. Even if you've only been a listener of Unfounds for a couple of years, you know we don't feature too many children looking for their parents. Why? Well, for the simple reason that parents with children don't go missing as much as children with parents. Statistically, humans are much more likely to go missing when they're young than when they are old. In addition, if parents go missing, the children are often so young when it happens that they can't offer much help when talking to someone like myself, even if the case is 20 or 30 years old and they are adults now. However, if you are interested in some unfound disappearances where the children have been the guests, Sue Braddock, Tatiana Lupich, Clint Walker, and if you really want to go back to the beginning of the podcast, James Walker, Claudia Wells, and Ellen Sloan. Well, with Thomas Doolan, his only daughter was well into her adult years when he disappeared. And we get to hear how she's gone about finding father. And now a summary of the case. Thomas Doolan was a Connecticut native. In fact, this is Unfound's first visit to that state. His childhood was unremarkable, but at about 16 years old, Thomas started getting into trouble running around town and experimenting with drugs. However, he worked through all of that and earned a girlfriend in his late 20s. And at the age of 30, a daughter, Thomas's only child, came along. Unfortunately, though, Thomas and the woman broke up. What followed was about 20 years of struggles with drugs and his mental health. However, for over a year before Thomas went missing, he had been in the best mental shape that he had been in a long time. So on December 6th, 2019, however, something changed. Thomas called his daughter that morning, obviously having some kind of manic episode. He wanted his daughter to help him. Thomas wanted to leave wherever he was. However, Thomas's daughter had her own things to do that day. In fact, she hung up on him when Thomas wouldn't listen to her. He didn't call back. He was never seen again. Not until 2 weeks later, when a nurse called Thomas's daughter to inquire about him, did anyone who mattered realize Thomas was missing. Although the people at the sober house where Thomas had been living surely knew it. A perusal of Thomas's phone records showed hardly any calls were made after talking to his daughter on December 6th. When we discuss mental health and drugs on Unfound, we rarely are talking about people in the age range of Thomas Doolan, who comes from the baby boomer generation. Granted, we haven't covered many missing people in their late 50s and above. Contemplate whether this changes the way you make your calculations for a disappearance, while you also try to answer these 3 questions during the interview. Number 1, if you were a taxi/Uber/Lyft driver, would you remember a customer from several weeks ago? Number 2, why did the people who run the sober house not do anything when they hadn't seen Thomas for 2 weeks? And number 3, what do you make of a licensed therapist who meets her clients at a church? Thomas's family is not sure what to think about his disappearance. The guest for this episode is Thomas's only child, Paige. Unfound news. This past Saturday, I had what might be in the top 3 most important non-interview calls I've had since starting Unfound. Yes, it did have to do with one of our disappearances. I'll tell you more about it when I can. Next, it's pretty much official that John Lorden and I will be working on a disappearance together. Not sure how quickly it will be brought to the public, though. But it's going to happen. Finally, doing the live show on Tuesday this week took me way back to 2017 when it first started. However, that was just a one-time thing. It'll be back to Monday this coming week, despite the college football championship occurring at the same time. My complete in-depth analysis of the disappearance of Thomas Doolan will eventually be posted at patreon.com/Unfound Podcast. Sign up to partake in it. I'm so happy to have on this episode of Unfound the daughter of Thomas Doolan, Paige. Paige, welcome to Unfound.
Hello.
All right, good to see you. Good to be talking to you today, Paige. Everybody should know we're doing this interview on January 13th of 2026, and I think this is the first time that I've ever conducted an interview in this particular room in the building where I live due to construction going on elsewhere. So this is a first for Unfound today. Paige, let's start here. Let's just talk a little bit about your family. Now, something you and I have in common is that we're both only children, although I have brothers and sister, long story, but we're both only children. So maybe you want to start there. Maybe you can start somewhere else, just talking about your family in general.
Yeah, I'm an only child to my dad and my mom, Suzanne. My mom was not able to have any more kids after that they had me.
Wow.
And the reason for that is she ended up with ovarian cancer, and she had to have a hysterectomy done.
Oh, my.
At a really, really young age. So my mom was, I believe, 21 or 20 when she had the hysterectomy done.
Wow.
And I was about, I would say like 3 or 4 when she had it done.
Okay.
So.
Wow,
Yeah,
she was very young when she had you. Wow.
Yeah, she was 18.
Oh my. Okay.
My dad was 11 and a half years older than my mom.
Oh. Okay. All right. So, only child, growing up in the family, did you ever wish you had any brothers or sisters or what?
I can say, having friends that had siblings and everything, and I'd see them, I'm just like, oh, that's crazy. I don't think I want that. And then, as I got older, there was times where I'd, see my friends and their sisters and brothers, and just like, I really wish I had a brother or sister. It would be great.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, if you don't know, you probably don't know this, Paige. I was raised as an only child, but I was given up for adoption when I was born. And then I actually got to meet my biological family in 1994. And I have 2 brothers and a sister who are full biological, siblings. We all have the same biological parents. But I didn't meet them till I was 23, 24 years old. So maybe I got the best of both worlds, Paige. But so you saying you grew up, maybe I wish I had brothers and sisters or something. I can appreciate that. I know exactly what that's like. Interesting. Okay. And where did you grow up? Where were you raised? Where were you born?
We moved around a little while I grew up, but I was born in Middletown, Connecticut, and we ended up living a couple of places in Connecticut, I believe in Naugatuck, Colchester, which is the town I've grown up in since. We moved to upstate New York, we moved to North Carolina, and then we moved back to Connecticut, and then I went to school in Hebron for a little while, and then my mom had gotten herself a place on her own when she had left my dad finally. And I have lived in Colchester, Connecticut since I was 8.
Wow. Okay.
maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, I think 8. Yeah.
Okay.
8 or 9.
All right. And I do have to ask you about this, being that you just brought it up there for a moment. We have to understand that at some point your parents did divorce. You must have been very young.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
They were never legally married. They just were together for a really long time. They were together from what I was told, I think 13 years.
Okay, I got you. All right, so they were never married, but they finally, or just split up.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. And you were how old about that time?
Yeah, it was around 8.
Okay, around 8 years old. So, unfortunately, probably you were old enough to maybe a little bit understand what was going on.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. All right, and what was the custody arrangement? Did they have anything on paper, or did your mother mostly raise you, or how did that go? Until you became an adult, how much seeing your father and your mother?
My mom had primary custody of me with my dad having visitation. My dad, unfortunately, had a drug addiction problem, and my mom just couldn't put me through that anymore. So that's the reason why she had initially left.
Sure.
They were super toxic for one another.
Yeah.
And growing up, I had, dealt with them two fighting from time to time, and like over the phone or fighting about me. So I would see my dad on the weekends, and sometimes I wouldn't, due to the drug use that he was having issues with. And but yeah, it was mainly just with my mom most of the time until I got a little older, where he was more kind of involved. He was more my friend for a long time than he was like my dad. Yeah. As a teenager, me and my mom were super alike, and I would fight with her all the time, and I'd always call my dad, and my dad would come pick me up, or he'd figure out a way to come and get me. So it was always a turmoil, up and down situation with those two, and with growing up with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for explaining. I know it's probably tough to talk about, maybe even today. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. So let's move on to this. We're here to talk about, of course, your father, Thomas, who is missing. He's been missing since December 6th of 2019. So we just passed like 6 years, not too long ago.
Yeah.
What have you learned about, of course, before you came along, what have you learned about, his life? Did he have any brothers and sisters, his parents, of course, your grandparents? What was his life before you came along?
From the stories that he has had told me growing up, he had his dad, his mom, which is my grandma. I never got to meet my biological grandfather. He had passed away when my dad was 18, I believe, from lung cancer. And his dad only had him as a son, and my grandma had 2 daughters before him, and either 2 or 3. I know my dad has 3 sisters.
Mm-hmm.
I only met one of them when I was little. And the other one I had met a couple of years after I had grown up. I think she had just recently passed away, actually, this past summer. And from what I've found out is pretty much all of my aunts have passed. And I know my dad he did paving. He was really, really, really good at doing sales and like selling paving work and doing all of that. He would work with the gypsies and go and do a bunch of stuff and just get himself in trouble.
Now, when you say gypsies, I know what you mean, but given I think this maybe just be a Northeast United States type of thing. But for the audience, what do you mean by please explain what you mean by gypsies?
So they're just a group of people that I've grown up around. They like the finer things in life. They can be a little bit more chaotic than most. I have a few friends that are gypsies, but they're super friendly and super nice. Some are crazy, some are all over the place. And I mean, overall, they're, from what I've always known, as if you're a gypsy, you're with a gypsy man who paves and does all of that and provides, and the women stay home and everything. So
We had those types of people in Western Pennsylvania where I grew up as well, and it's weird. They were also involved in like paving and like if you have a driveway that need the cracks sealed, like oil, like that type. They were all in, and I think they would just go where the work was, like according to the weather. They'd come to Pennsylvania when it was warm, but when it got cold, they'd come down to like the southern states or something. That's my perception. Yeah.
Right now, I know a bunch of them are in Florida.
Yes. Yeah, where I live now. Oh, yes, right. So I know what you mean. Thank you for explaining that, because we think gypsies. Well, aren't gypsies like over in Europe or something? Well, there's a term, and thank you for explaining that. Gotcha. Okay.
I'm sorry about that.
That's all right. No, that's all right. Like, we just have to. What'd she just say? Gypsies, and they think like caravans and. I don't know, like you get this like ancient idea of gypsies, but yes, here in the 21st century they exist as well. Okay, even in the United States. Gotcha. All right, so he's like paving, etc. And I want to go back to your grandparents. So did you met like your grandmother, his mother?
Yes.
Okay, you did. Okay, is she still alive?
Yep. Unfortunately, no. She had passed away about a month after my dad was reported missing.
Wow. Okay. And so, was she did she understand that he went missing? Did she know?
Yeah.
She did?
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think we talked about that before. All right, so you had a kind of relationship with her? Knew her?
I had a good relationship with her up until I was a teen. About 16, my dad got pretty heavy into doing the drugs, and my grandma was his source of income to get money, like extra money to be able to, he would say, to get groceries or gas or whatever. So he would just make it where it was super impossible for me to have a relationship with my grandma. So for a long time, I didn't really have a good standing relationship with my grandmother, because he didn't want me and her to have a relationship, so that way we could put two and two together and try to get him help.
I see. When did you figure that out, Paige?
I was 21.
So you were an adult before you figured out, oh, so this was what was going on.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. What about friends? Did your dad have? We'll come back to the addiction here topic here in a moment. But what about friends? He known as being a personable guy, or what kind of interest did he have, or outgoing? What would you say?
He was super goofy. He was super friendly. He would give the shirt off of his back if he could. If you needed him and you had no way out, he would be there. He super funny, like goofy, and just very, very lovable guy. He never ceased to amaze me when it came to, like, we would go to a store or go shopping, and he just sparked up random conversations with like the cashiers or just random people in line, and he just a very, very impressionable person. He had a lot of good in him.
And we should say, and we're going to cover this, but you did see him when he was sober for periods of time as you were an adult, and so you got to know his true personality.
Correct.
Yeah, all right, we're going to come back to that. So this is something that, once again, we, of course, as you would imagine, Paige, addiction and other issues are common topics on this podcast, and it's amazing how these people that have these problems, and when there are glimpses of their true self, how good these people are. But when addiction, mental health issues take over, they just change. But that's not who they are. It's so important, I think, to understand that.
Correct.
Yeah. Let's now get to that. Has anybody ever been able to tell you, why was it that he started doing this? Like you said, when he was 16 in his teen years, what was it? Any friends, family ever able to put it all together for you?
I mean, I know my dad has told me. I've always been very curious about, the effects and all of that kind of stuff, and I never dabbled in any of that stuff. I think it was just more of like I want to know, so that way I can understand certain things about him as I got older. And I remember a couple of conversations that I had with my dad, and he would explain that he had, a rough upbringing, and growing up in the 60s and the 70s and everything, it was hard. And I guess his dad was a tough guy. And from what I've gathered, it kind of just made, I'm not, to be completely honest with you, I don't think anybody has really ever pinpointed it.
Okay.
My dad was always there were certain times where sometimes you couldn't really understand where he was coming from when he would give I can't say excuses to becoming an addict or getting into the drug system or the scene or whatever.
Yeah.
I think it was just more of the crowd that he had hung out with, that he had became friends with, and they were, the bad kids in town, and he just wanted to fit in, and he was the smaller guy, and his dad had told a couple of his other friends, you protect Tommy with, everything. So you got him and three of his other friends running around town just being crazy kids and teenagers and young adults. I think it just kind of turned into what it was, and then he just would always have these random facades of stories that he would come up with. My dad was a storyteller. I can definitely 100% say that with certainty. Okay. But some would be truthful and some wouldn't be.
All right, I was just going to ask you, and some of those stories have facts behind them and some do not.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so maybe so what we're also saying is, of course, we're going to talk about how he was sober for like 18 months, not long before he went missing. And so in these times when he was sober, he and you never really talked about his teenage years and how he got into that, or did you? Never really
No, I mean, for a while when he was sober, before he had disappeared, I don't think I really ever brought up his past. I think it was just, I had my kids, and he was so excited to be a grandpa, and he didn't have a vehicle, so it was, hey, what are you doing today? Or do you want to pick me up before you go home and bring me home? For a while, it was kind of taxing, and it was stressful because, I want him to spend time with his grandkids, and I want to spend time with him, but it's also hard because where he lived was, 45-minute drive. Yeah. And having to make sure, either I'm here to be able to get him where he needs to be and bring him somewhere, or hey, bring me grocery shopping, and I'd bring him grocery shopping and have the kids with me, but it would be later in the afternoon after I would get out of work. Yeah. So it was rough. But no, I don't. We never really talked about his childhood during the 18 months that he was sober. I think it was just more of him trying to get healthy again. From the doctors telling him that if he does any more drugs, then it's going to kill him. It's not a game anymore.
He's not 16 anymore. He's not 16 anymore.
Right, correct. Yeah. He had a heart attack. He had TBIs. And it was just to the point where he was at that age where it was just like, hey, you either need to start turning your life around or you're going to be gone. And he did. Yeah. So I know that for 100% that he was completely sober before he had disappeared. I know that he was going through some stuff, but it was more of I just want to figure things out, and I want to get my life better. I want to get my own place. But it was always all over the place with him. even during him being sober.
Okay. What about his mental health? Just very quickly, him, how did the mental health issues manifest themselves? Did he become paranoid? Did he become reclusive? What would you say?
He became paranoid before he had disappeared about numerous things. A roommate in the house. If he went to the hospital to try to get help, that they were going to call the police on him because he had taken a thing of Narcan. He was... I don't have my phone anymore, my old phone that I had the text messages, and unfortunately I lost them because that phone is no longer. My mom still has some of the messages from my dad before he had disappeared, and they're just so all over the place. And it was like a week or two before he had disappeared. I'm going to Norwich. I'm doing this. I'm going to go there. I need to store my stuff here. Can you let me do that? And and I would get random messages. I remember one of them saying, I wish I could have done more for you as a father. I'm sorry that I was such a failure. So it was kind of all over the place, and him saying, I love you, and, I'm proud of you. You're an amazing daughter. You have great kids. And it was just crazy to me when he was doing that. And then when I had seen him to go grocery shopping on the 2nd, he was fine. The only thing that he would be a little quirky about was if somebody was whispering or if they were mumbling, talking to somebody else, like a random stranger, he would think that they were talking about him. Oh my. I think my dad was possibly misdiagnosed when he was younger, but he never went and got himself re-diagnosed. He was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, manic, and depression, and not 100% sure on what else.
Okay. All right. Thank you for talking about all that. Of course, we're going to come back to that a little later. Let's move on to this. Now, he was not, given all of this, did he have a steady job, around, leading up to the time of his disappearance? Or when was the last time he had a steady job before he went missing? What can you say about his employment?
My dad has never had a legal job in his entire time of me being alive.
Okay, all right. So when he's working with the gypsies and everything, kind of getting paid under the table, as they put it.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
But
he did that when he got put on SSI for his mental health. My grandmother told him to file for something when my mom took him to court, and my dad was put on Social Security or something. Social Security, and so that he didn't have to work to pay child support.
Okay.
Yeah, he was a jerk a little bit.
All right.
When they were younger.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's probably a lot of guys who don't have drug issues and don't have mental health issues are doing that exact same thing right now as we're doing this interview today, unfortunately. All right, thank you. All right, so, but during that year, 2019, even whether over the table or under the table, he did not have a job. Let's just say for that year of 2019.
No, he did not.
Okay. You've already mentioned, maybe paranoid, where he was living. Let's talk a little bit about where he was living, how he ended up there. What is this place? I guess a sober house, whatever you want to call it. What can you say?
To be completely honest with you, I do not fully remember how he ended up in the sober house. I'm pretty sure it was because he had a apartment in Colchester, and then he got hooked on a different drug, and then he ended up in Norwich at another house staying with somebody, and then he needed help, and I brought him to rehab. And I had told him flat out, this was during the time I was getting married. If you do not get sober, you're not going to walk me down the aisle. And he sat there and got himself clean, and then he had the medical issues. And I believe from the rehab facility, they helped him get into the sober house.
All right.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Did you ever visit the sober house? Were you ever there?
Yeah.
Explain it. Just the environment, how many people were there, how it's managed, as best as you understood.
So the first house that that he was living in, it was a nice little house. It was on a hill in New London, over by the bridges, for 32, and he was super excited. He had built a little cat thing for the cats, the stray cats that were outside. And I think there was 3 or 4 other guys living there, and that's including the house manager. And he was there for a good 3 to 6 months, I think, and then they had sold that house and bought another house, which was more of absolutely gorgeous house, but it needed a lot of work. I don't think they should have moved any of the guys into that house. It was not ready to be lived in when my dad and the house manager had moved in, because the other guys had left and went somewhere else. But it was my dad and the house manager when they had moved in at this new place, and then 2 other people had moved in afterwards, once it was more of a livable situation. My dad never let me go anywhere upstairs. I wasn't allowed to go in the living room. He showed me the kitchen and just the walk-in entry at that house, and I understand why for him it was kind of embarrassing.
Okay.
I feel.
All right. So, kind of each guy has their own room type of thing. All right. And the person who taking care of this place lives there as well.
Yep.
And this is paid for by what, the state of Connecticut or how?
I think so. I know that. So the house manager lived there, and then the person who owned it, her and her husband lived on the other side of the river.
Okay.
In Groton.
Okay.
From what I was told.
And how long did he live in this new house before he went missing? You don't have to be exact. A year, 6 months, a year, 2 years?
No, I think it was possibly either between 4 and 6 months, possibly. Okay. I'm not 100% sure.
All right, but in 2019. He moved in there in 2019, and that's where he disappeared from, seemingly. Okay.
Yes.
All right, so this is the situation. You went over there, you're familiar, and you said you would get groceries for him. This is where you would bring them, take them?
Yep.
Yep, when you went over there. And how far was that from where you lived at the time to there?
It's about the same distance. It was maybe an extra couple of minutes added on to the 45-minute drive.
All right, so he lived about this house where he was living, about 45 minutes away.
Correct.
Okay. Let's also, we also need to talk about this, because this is actually going to be a topic to be understood later. You did say that he had a heart attack. Approximately what year did that happen? And I had an older brother who had a slight heart attack some years ago, and I know that he had to really watch himself, and of course he's still alive, but take medication. How did your father handle that? When did it happen? How did he handle it?
I believed it happened around either the end of 2017 into 2018.
Okay.
And he would have to go to the doctors a lot. I'm pretty sure he was on medication, but I can't be certain. I know that they had put a heart monitor
Yeah.
in to regulate to see when and how long his heart would be stopped for. It was just something that would read his heart to figure out what their next steps were. Mm-hmm. But I know that he was doing everything that he needed to do for them.
Okay. And you did say that this monitor, this is not what we might call a pacemaker or anything. This was actually something under the skin that was monitoring how well his heart was working. It wasn't keeping it beating like a pacemaker. This was actually just something keeping an eye on his heart.
Correct.
All right, and it would work through Wi-Fi.
Yes.
Okay, very interesting. We're going to come back to that. This is surely going to be the first time we've ever gotten deep into something like that on an episode of Unfound. All right, and how would you say he recovered from that? How was his health? Did you not tell me that, you could kind of tell whether he would lose weight and then he would put on a lot of weight depending on, if he was doing drugs or not? Did you not tell me that? You could tell by his weight or something? How was he managing his weight after the heart problem?
I know 100% he was taking some water pills because he was retaining a lot of water on top of with him not doing any of the drugs that he had prior done. Yeah. So he was close to almost 300 pounds.
Wow, big fella.
He was a big man. Yeah.
How tall was he?
I believe my dad was about 5'11".
5'11", almost 300 pounds. Wow. All right.
Yeah.
A big fella.
He was a chick brick house.
Okay.
Sorry for my language.
Okay. All right. And of course we know that I know I'm 5'9", 180 pounds, and even I'm considered to be a little overweight. So, according to the BMI calculation. So big fella. Maybe having, once again, heart issues. Maybe then that's not totally a surprise. All right.
No.
Let's move on just to the year 2019. Of course, that's the year that he went missing. We've spoken about how he was sober for quite a long time before he went missing. I have it written in my notes as 18 months. What brought that on? And just talk a little bit about those 18 months.
He got sober he's always had this struggling on and off since I was a little girl getting clean. He would always try to get clean for somebody else and never himself. Yeah. And he finally decided that I think maybe it's time that I need to get sober for myself and, and other people that I love, especially. I'm a daddy's girl. And I'm the apple of his eye, and he wanted to walk me down the aisle, and that was a dream of his that I will always hold on to. So I know that was part of the reason why he had gotten sober, but I also know that his heart condition and, him being in the hospital and figuring a bunch of things out about his health also was a big factor into him getting sober as well. Yeah. And during that time, our relationship was really good.
Yeah.
For the most part. I mean, don't get me wrong. He was a hag. He would call randomly and, what are you doing? And what are the boys doing? Mm-hmm. And are they hagging you out? Are they bugging you? Or he'd just call and be like, I love you. Have a good day. And then he'd hang up. It was... we would go grocery shopping at the beginning of the month, and if he needed to get anything else, we would go and get what he needed. I had him over for Thanksgiving. I would have him over. I mean, I had gotten a little remote control Power Wheels for my oldest son at the time, and he came over and helped me put it all together. And wow. I have a video of. I'd have to find it, but I have a video of me bringing my dad home and my dad saying, I love you guys, and Patrick, which is my oldest son, and my youngest son is Logan. And we had a really, really, really good relationship during the time that he was sober. He
All right.
was just such a goofy person.
Sounds like it. All right, so you get to see that side of him calling you. Maybe he's just a little bored, calling you just to see what's going on. Yeah. Maybe that could be right. Not totally unusual. Yeah.
Yeah.
When this was happening, in the process of him being sober and all these good things going on, were you thinking, well, this could be forever? Is this just like you just taking it one day at a time because you never know what the next day could bring?
Yeah, it was more of a take it one day at a time kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, so he gets sober. Sounds like some good reasons, but as you stated, the best reason somebody can get sober is for himself or herself. And instead of doing it for other people, I mean, if somebody's going to get sober, let's not get in the way of the motivation. But I think what sticks is somebody doing it for himself or herself. All right, but we're going to get to it, but we should know that maybe right before he went missing, maybe some mental health issues started to show themselves a little bit?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, we'll come back to that, but we just have to everybody understand that there was maybe a falling back into maybe some old habits right before he went missing, but we're going to examine that in a moment. His bike. Let's talk about this bike. He is not only missing, but this bike that we're going to discuss is also missing. How did he get it? You told me that he was excited about it. What can you say about the bike? Maybe describe it too.
It was a black, older style mountain bike. It had the higher seat, and it was one of the ones that have the little arms that come up from the handlebars.
Yeah.
I've only seen it, I think, twice, and honestly, I have no idea how he managed to get his hands on it. He may have gotten it from one of the sober guys that were living at the house that had left. I'm 100% not sure. Okay. I also know that the first house that he lived in, the first sober house that he lived in, had a bike shop down the street. So, I mean, he could have found it in the back or something. I'm not sure. Okay. But he was all about this bike and getting things for it. He had taped with green tape a flashlight to it for him to be able to ride at night if he needed to, down to the stores. He was working on getting a new seat for it, new handlebars, and I think that was about it. But I know that he was super excited about the bike.
How long before he went missing did he get this?
He had it from the first house to the second house. So, a good while.
Yeah, over 6 months.
There. Yeah.
Over 6 months, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. Any idea, of course, not seeing a lot, you have your own life to lead. You live 45 minutes away. Did you ever get a decent idea how much he was riding this bike? How many miles he was putting on it?
Honestly, I have no idea.
Okay, that's all right, mate. I understand that. I understand it. Once again, you have your life to live. Your mother, you live far away, and everything else. So that's no big deal. Just to give an idea, was he just going out daily?
I think so. Maybe if he got bored at the house, or if he wanted to go to the store or something. I know that he would tell me a couple of times. I remember him calling me after work. I used to work at Electric Boat, and when I would leave, Electric Boat, there's two of them. There's the Electric Boat that does the submarines over on the Groton side, which is where I worked, so I'd have to go over the Gold Star Bridge to get through to be able to get home. And he would call, because he lived in New London, and he would be down by the train station where the water is, and you can see straight across to Electric Boat. And he'd call me, and he'd be like, I rode the bike down here today. I can see your work. Are you still at work? And he would just call just to aggravate and just to say hi and, how was your day? And I know that he would go down there a couple of times to go write or for some reason he got into writing in his little notebook about his day or about his feelings or whatever, which I do have one of them. I don't have all of them.
Okay. All right, so he would go down to like across the water from where you work, and he'd call you just to bug you and everything. By the way, I think it's very neat that you worked, or maybe still do, I don't know, but worked for the company that makes the submarines. I think you're the first person I've known that does that. So,
Yeah.
Okay, so he does that, and he's riding this bike. You would have to ride the bike down there, but like this bike, had possession of it, liked it, but we're not clear how much he used to ride. Do you ever get an idea of, maybe I should ask you this, from the sober house to where he would go down there to see across the water to your work, how far is that? Is it a pretty good ride, or is it just a little 10-minute ride, or do you have any ideas at all?
On a bike, I would say about a 10-minute ride, yeah.
Okay. All right.
From where he lived, yeah.
Okay, so he was riding it, and we're just not sure how much and how far he was doing this. Let's move up to this. Of course, I think the last time you saw him talked to him. We're going to talk about that in a bit. But you actually saw him at Thanksgiving, and you said he was in pretty good shape.
Yep, for the most part. Yeah.
Okay.
Towards the end of the night on Thanksgiving, he was a little antsy, and I had noticed. When I was bringing him home, he was just more not acting normal, and I would ask him what was wrong, and he's just like, "No, I'm fine. I'm just tired."
Okay. How, when you say antsy, so you're there, you have Thanksgiving, maybe your house? Your home?
Yep.
Okay, so he's there at your home. A lot of other people are there, probably family members. And then you're driving him home, and you're saying that he's antsy. What does antsy exactly mean?
He was just kind of pacing, walking around a lot, talking a little faster than he normally would. He just started to seem like he was going into a manic episode. And so he was just, you can tell that he was also tired as well. But he definitely was not acting himself.
Okay. Were you concerned? I mean, once again, you have your own life to lead. You can't take care of him, but you dropping off there, a little concerned about it, or you're like, well, this is probably just a phase he's going through.
I was a little worried about him, but I was also kind of just like, okay, maybe he really is just tired, and I just need to let him, get him home and, let him get some sleep, and then we'll figure it out later.
Yeah.
And that was, pretty much it for the most part. He didn't really do much after that, except for the crazy text messages the day he went missing. So.
All right. Okay, so you drop him off that night after Thanksgiving, and of course Thanksgiving I didn't write in my notes exactly what the date was that year, but of course December 6th is not that long after, but maybe describe those few days between you dropping him off and December 6th. Did you have any contact with him until that day?
Yeah, I had taken him grocery shopping on the 2nd of December. I had picked him up after work, and got him to Walmart, and we had went grocery shopping and gotten what he needed, and then I had brought him home. I had to get home to the kids, and he was very understanding. He acted perfectly fine from how he was on Thanksgiving, so it was kind of just like a flip switch with him. Yeah. And I didn't really have any concerns about it, because it was of how he was acting the day of versus Thanksgiving when I had seen him last. And, we had some laughs and whatever, and I had brought him home, and I went home. And I had talked to him the next day, and he was fine. And then, I would talk to my dad pretty much every day unless I decided, like, I was dealing with my own mental health at the time, when I would sit there and just, I don't really want to talk to anybody right now. I just kind of want to break. And he would be very understanding about everything too. So it was always like, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. I just don't really feel like talking today. And, from the last time I seen him to the 6th, everything just went haywire with him.
All right. So then you saw him on December 2nd. You said seemed just fine. What happened between the 2nd and the 6th? You said, did you continue talking to the 3rd, 4th, 5th?
I did not. I was, like I said, I was going through my own mental health. I was going through a program to help me kind of understand more about myself and, kind of open my eyes to what other people are going through as well. I was in different groups, and then in one specific group myself with a counselor and then a couple of other people. So it was kind of just, I was focusing on trying to get that done. That was every day. Monday through Friday, and so it was, I would focus on myself, and my dad would understand between the 2nd and the 6th, and we didn't really talk too much, so the day he disappeared, when I had talked to him, it was, like I said, it was kind of like a flip switch, where it was just like, he was fine to, what happened? Why are you freaking out? What is going on?
Right. Okay. Let's talk about December 6th. How is that? Just give a timeline of that day.
Okay. So it was about 9 o'clock in the morning on December 6th. And I had just recently got into the building for the facility that I was going to for my mental health. And the class was about to start. I think it started at 9:30, and my dad had called me at 9:06, and he was just frantic. And I had ignored his text messages because I was driving, so when I had first gotten there, I didn't get a chance to read them yet. And as I was starting to read them was when he was calling me, and he's just like, I need this, and I need to figure things out. And I'm like, Dad, I literally just got to my program. Like, I can't leave, or I'm not going to be able to go back to work. They won't let me go back if I don't finish this program. I can't miss a day.
Yeah.
I can't miss a class. I can't miss any of this. And he was just so manic and all over the place. And I'm like, why don't you go to the clinic or go to the hospital? I can't go to the hospital because they're going to have me arrested. And I don't want to be at the house because that guy's dangerous. And I don't want to be around anything because I'm just not myself. And I'm just like, well, you need to figure something out because I can't physically help you.
Yep.
And when I had talked to him on the phone, and I'm like, I can't do this. And I'm like, I have to go. Class is about to start. And I hung up on him. And that is one thing that I can sit here, if out of the 35 years of my life, if I have absolutely any regret in my life, that is the one thing that I absolutely and utterly regret, is that I did not say I love you to him. That I hung up. And most of the time, anytime my dad would ever call me and he's manic, I would always stop what I'm doing. It didn't matter if I had my kids with me or not. I would go and I'd help him. And for the first time in my life, I decided to put myself first for once and focus on getting me better for my children.
Right.
Because they deserve that.
Yeah.
And I try to not regret and not have guilt because I wasn't there to help my dad. But I also needed to do that for myself.
Sure you did. Of course you did. Of course you did. There's of course, if he doesn't go missing, and he's still around, you're still having contact with him here in 2026, you maybe even forget that conversation even happened.
Correct.
If it's later in the day and he's like, oh, I overreacted, or you talking to him the next day, or maybe not till a week later. It's like, well, yeah, I was having a bad time that day. Sorry, Paige. But, there's no way you could have known that. It's one of those things I don't know what else you could have done.
My mom tells me that all the time.
I don't know what else you could have done.
No, I mean, my mom has said to me multiple times, like, if it wasn't then, it could have happened later on down the road, and
Yep.
I could have lost my job had I not finished that program, so it was a big deal. Just,
right.
it's definitely, it weighs on me a lot,
yeah.
But at the same time it doesn't, so it's kind of hard.
Right. All right, so you have this conversation. You got to do what you got to do. You have a life to lead too. You have to remember, he's your dad. He's not like one of your kids. It's not like if you like. I don't know how old your child or children were at the time, but it's not like you're hanging up. It's not like you're hanging up the phone on your 5-year-old or something. You know what I mean? It's
right.
Your father. I know having a father's 89 years old. Try to help them out, but really they're not our responsibility. They're just not in any way. So that happens, and do we know? We're gonna get and try to figure out what he did after this, but was it like later in the day? Did you try to call him back, or did you try to text him? Later that day, or what'd you do?
I attempted to call, and it rang once, and it went to voicemail.
Okay.
So I had just thought, like, okay, maybe he did go get himself some help, or maybe he turned his phone off and it's just not registering fully yet, or, because my dad sometimes when he goes through some spells, he would disappear for a couple of days.
Yeah.
Or if he, relapsed, he would, like I said, would disappear for a couple of days, and he'd binge. But my dad, even if he would binge, my dad never went longer than, 4 days without contacting anybody.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I had just nonchalantly thought, because, my dad, there's been times where I think there was 2 times in the last 15 years where my dad was able to get himself to a rehab facility to get himself help, or to bring him to the hospital to put himself in the psych ward or whatever. And when you're in the psych ward, you can't contact anybody until they deem you ready.
Yeah.
So I didn't do anything. I didn't think anything. I called every day or every other day to check in or whatever, and I would get the voicemail, or I wouldn't get a text back, or I just, me thinking, well, I've got my kids I got to take care of. My child, my youngest, was a baby at the time, so, he's a lot, and so it was just like going to work and figuring everything out, and I just didn't do anything. I didn't think anything negatively. I didn't think that he was missing, So I just went about my life and did what I needed to do, and when he is able to contact me, he'll contact me.
Right.
That's how I would think.
Yeah.
My mom thought the same thing, and
right.
So I let it go, and then I got a phone call 2 weeks later from his visiting nurse asking if I've heard from my dad.
Huh.
And
so once again, 2 weeks later, so we're talking about the 20th of December, so just a few days before Christmas, you get this call. So 2 weeks, you've not heard from him, no calls, no texts, and then 2 weeks later, this nurse calls you and says, do you know where your father is?
Yeah.
All right, let's tell the listeners a little bit about that call.
I had answered. I was actually my last day of my program, and I was on break, and I had picked up the phone. I didn't know the number, and I don't remember her name. She's the sweetest lady ever.
Okay.
And she's like, "Hey, is this Tom Doolan's daughter, Paige?" And I'm like, "Yes, this is her." And she's just like, I'm at the sober house to check on your dad, and he's not here, and they're saying he hasn't been here since, since the 6th. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? I was like, maybe do you have any way of being able to figure out if he got himself put into, like, a thing or whatever? And she's just like, no, I can't. Like, if he did, then, he'll contact you when he can. But other than that, I'm not sure. And I'm like, well, I'm going to call the police and see if they'll do a wellness check, because she had talked to somebody that was leaving the sober house that had just moved in. And then that's what that guy was told, is that one of the guys had left on the 6th. So he thought it was my dad.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I'm like, okay, well, that's weird, because my dad didn't say that he was moving out at any point when I did talk to him. Yeah. From even on Thanksgiving, he didn't talk about. Mm-hmm. He just knew that he didn't want to be there anymore, but he couldn't afford to get his own place yet. And I was like, well, I'm going to call and have them do a wellness check. And I called the police, and I asked for a wellness check. And I had talked to, I don't remember the officer's name, but they're just like, yeah, okay, yeah, we'll get over there. I gave him the address and everything. I told him my dad's name, and I never heard back. Not a peep. And by the end of my program, I had, the graduation thing and, like, congratulations, yay. Yeah. And I had left, and I stopped at the gas station, and I called the police again. And I'm like, hey, I haven't gotten a phone call back about the wellness check I asked for. And they're like, what wellness check? I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, how hard is it to get in your car and to go down the street 5 miles? Like, the police station's 10 minutes away. It's not that far. And they were like, yeah, nobody said anything about a wellness check. And I was like, okay, well, that's bull crap. Like, that's rude. Yeah. And I had told them again, I gave them the address and everything, and I didn't hear back from them for 6 hours. When I finally got the call, they're like, yeah, we talked to the house person, and they said that your dad left. And I'm like, okay, well, where's all of his stuff? And they're like, we don't know. And I'm like, that's weird, because he doesn't have a vehicle to get anywhere. And I had tried to call the house manager, which I apparently did not have the right number. My dad wrote it wrong, for me to get in contact if anything medical happened. So I was kind of like SOL on that, and I ended up going there myself and knocking on the door. Mind you, this house is creepy. It's a really, 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 really old, vintage Victorian house, and it's really pretty, but it's really creepy too, because it's not all renovated. So walking up to the door was I was a little weird. I was by myself.
I kind of like that house in Psycho.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit like that. Okay, just want to put a visual for the listeners. When you talk Victorian and creepy, that's what I think of. Something like the house behind the Bates Motel in Psycho. Okay. All right, so you go up to the creepy house, and what's the manager say?
Nobody answered the door for me. I saw a shadow, so I know somebody was home, but nobody answered. So I left it alone. I left. I went back after work the next day, and I had seen one of the new guys that had just moved in, and I was like, hey, my dad was living here. I guess he moved out, and he was like, yeah, I was told that the guy moved out, but he left all of his stuff here. And I'm like, what? So I was like, that's weird. Why would he leave all of his belongings? And he's like, well, I'm not sure. That is kind of weird. And it took me about a good month and a half for me to get all of my dad's property from that house, for them to finally answer the door or answer the phone, to the point where I had to have the police be like, hey, you need to let her come and get her dad's things. And this was after I had filed the missing persons report, and it was just all over the place. They were not cooperative, really. Like, they just told the police that my dad left. That's it.
What have you, no explanation from, I mean, what is this? Is it a company? Is it a 501c3 that runs this? Once again, it comes back to the financing. Surely there's somebody above that. Surely there's somebody above this manager there that oversees things. You ever talk to anybody higher up about, hey, people don't answer the door here and everything else?
Nope. I had the phone number for the owner. It was a non-profit house, so I'm not 100% sure on how that works or like who helps run it or whatever. All I know is that it was just, to me, it just seemed like somebody bought a house, put somebody in charge of a bunch of people trying to be sober or coming out of jail. I genuinely do not think like it's an actual legit state
not
provided
licensed or
sober
anything.
House.
I see. Really, it's just an Airbnb for people like your dad.
Yeah, sober living, pretty much.
I see.
And I had tried to contact the woman, and I talked to her once.
The woman of the couple who owned it.
Owned it, yeah.
Okay.
It was very short. It was very, I don't know. All I know is he left.
Are these people slumlords or something?
Who knows?
Okay. But this nurse who you said was really sweet, she was showing up there, obviously. What did she have to say about this place, if you got to talk to her, being that obviously has experience with that place?
I really didn't get into full detail or like conversation with her. I only talked to her that one time, and then she had called me about 2 months later because she had seen one of the flyers on the poles in New London that I had put up, and so she had called me again, and she's like, hey, I just noticed this. You never, that's crazy that your dad was never found. And I was like, well, I was hoping that maybe he was in the hospital, but I've called everywhere and I've begged. I know HIPAA, that whole HIPAA law kind of thing. And so I've been told by people that work in the hospital that they can legally tell you that they can leave a message for a said person, but they can't physically say that they're there.
Right.
But there's ways around telling you that they are there or not there without getting in trouble. And everywhere that I called, I was told there is nobody here by that name. Not one time did anybody ever say, I'll relay a message, or, I'll try to have him call, or, because there was a couple of facilities that my dad frequented, and they all knew me. So they knew, like, he's okay with me knowing if he's there or not, as long as I know he's safe. He would always make sure that those people had permission to tell me if he was there or not. But everywhere else, nobody, not a peep. Okay.
Does this place still exist here in 2026? Do you know?
I'm not sure. I believe so. I don't know if it's still a sober house. I don't know. Okay. I kind of stopped trying, as messed up as that kind of sounds. I had put up the house manager worked at Electric Boat on third shift, and I had asked a boss for permission to put up my dad's flyer, because I knew a lot of people that lived in the New London area and Groton area. Yeah. And they had given me permission to put it up there, and I had came into work the following day, and there was a nail hammered into my dad's nose on the picture of the missing persons flyer on the poster board.
That's nice.
And that was after I had went to the sober house because they weren't cooperating. They weren't answering the door anymore. I had plastered the house with his poster. I taped it to the deck. I taped it to the door. I taped it to the windows. I asked the police if I could do it, and they told me it was fine as long as I don't try to enter the home.
Okay. Oh my gosh. All right, you didn't get a call because they didn't even call you because of that. They knew you were doing it, and they didn't even call you to tell you to stop doing that or were ticked off or anything. They didn't even call you for that.
Mm-mm.
I see. Okay.
Nope.
So what about filing the missing persons report? So he's missing. They say, yeah, he was here, and now he's not. December 6th, seemingly the same day that that you spoke to him and you had to take care of your own business, seemingly since the same day, it seems. And 2 weeks later, this woman calls you, says, hey, where is your father? You didn't even know anything was up. But I do have to ask you, those 2 weeks, you didn't think it was odd that you hadn't heard from him? It does seem that you were having a lot more contact with him in the months leading up to that, but I have to ask.
Yeah, I was worried about him, but I also remember at the time, with how my dad could be and with the way that he was acting the last time I had spoke to him, I felt more like he could have went and gotten himself to a hospital to get himself some help on his own. So I just had initially, my mindset was more of, I think, I don't think anything's wrong. I just, I'm worried about him and I want him to be okay. Maybe he's getting himself some help to get his mind right and get on the right medication.
Yep.
That's the one thing that I also still do kick myself in the butt for, is that I didn't try harder soon enough or sooner.
Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to make sure on that. Just wanted to ask. So when does the missing persons report get filed? I guess you did it.
I believe I filed it either on the 21st or the 19th.
All right. So about 2 weeks later, right after this woman calls you.
Yes.
And you start looking into this. So once again, we know that you had some problems with the police, so they were going to do welfare check. Didn't do that. But you went over there. Of course, you've already talked about all the issues that you've had over there. And we also should state that he is missing and the bike is missing.
Correct.
So you went over there. Maybe you took it with him. Maybe you didn't. Maybe somebody stole it. A lot of different possibilities. Now, when he would keep his bike at this house, did he keep it outside or inside?
I believe outside.
All right. So I guess it could have been stolen, or maybe he took it or something.
Yeah,
all right.
possibly.
So the police finally get this missing persons report. They've kind of already blown you off when it just comes to a welfare check. Were they able to make any more headway with the people at the sober house, the owners of the home, any of that?
I'm not sure about the owners of the home. I know once the report was filed, I had gotten a phone call from a detective, and they were trying to figure things out. They had found out. Well, I know the detective was able to get in contact with somebody. I'm not sure who. I'm pretty sure it possibly could have been either the person who owns the house or the house manager. He never really elaborated. But he was able to get some information that I guess my dad had stayed at the Holiday Inn or the hotel. I can't remember the name of the hotel. I know it's actually next to the police station. Huh. He stayed there from the 3rd to the 5th. Or the 2nd to the 4th. I have the receipt, actually. They're all binned up.
All right, so so what you're saying is he really wasn't at the sober house.
Yeah.
So once again, the way I remember it, on the 2nd, you got that food for him, you brought it back to the sober house, but it seems he was actually staying at a local hotel instead.
Correct.
And he didn't tell you.
Mm-mm.
That was all news to you.
Yeah.
Okay. How long did it take the police to find that out?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Was that into 2020? then before that was all discovered, or do you remember?
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, and maybe I should go back and ask you that. When you had this conversation with him on December 6th, where did you think he was?
I thought he was still at the sober house.
Okay. But now
he didn't say that he was anywhere, or that he went anywhere, or that he was staying at the hotel, or anything. He didn't mention any of that to me, not even in the text messages that he had sent, or when he was on the phone with me.
Okay. Because this is going to lead into getting into some of these things a little more deeply, and that's probably a good place to start. Because, in educating myself outside of talking to you, Paige, of course, I've read some. There's not a wealth of information out there about your father's disappearance, Thomas's disappearance. But one of the things that is noted is that there's a story out there that says that he believed he was going to be asked to leave the sober house. Is that popped up in the work that you've done to try to figure out what happened to your father? Because this could maybe go in line with now finding out maybe he was spending a time at a hotel instead. Can you say anything about that?
I think I'm pretty sure my dad only mentioned that to me one time, and that was in October. Before he disappeared. And it was one time, and it was because that was when he had gotten into an argument with the guy that he said he was afraid of.
Okay. So do you have any idea, where do you think, how did that become so public? Do you have any idea where, if he only said it to you one time, do you think that he said it to anybody else? Because like I said, it's out there.
He could have said it to my mom. But honestly, I'm not 100% sure how it could have gotten out there, because I don't ever remember really saying anything to any report. I've only talked to one other person about my dad's case to have it put in the newspaper, and that was at the 1 year anniversary of him being missing. I never told the police that. I don't know if the detective had talked to somebody that my dad was friends with. I haven't been able to get down to the police station to get the report that they have for me to go through it myself. I asked if I can get it, and they said that I'm more than welcome to come and get it. I just haven't had the physical time to get down there.
All right. And they probably have to fill out some paperwork to get it as well.
Yeah.
So when it comes to this story, he was going to be asked to leave. That may have... We're going to get to, was he having problems with somebody there in a moment. But that could have been just his paranoia talking. He may have just thrown that out. It wasn't really true. It was just something he kind of threw out there.
Yeah.
Okay. And once again, we have to remember this is back in October, not in December. Regarding this, a problem, someone there giving him a hard time. Any proof of this? Who? Of course, we can't get into names, even if you knew the name. Who was this other person? Of course, there's multiple men at this sober house. When did he first tell you he was having problems with somebody there?
He first brought it up in, I believe, September. Either it was the end of August, beginning of September, when he had told me that a new guy had moved in, and he didn't like how he acted. He didn't like how he spoke to him. He was a lot smaller than him, a lot younger than him, and he would talk down to my dad. My dad's, he's not a big guy, but, well, he was at the time, but he's, my dad is very good with words if he needs to speak his mind and say something, and he doesn't have a problem with that. But for some reason, this guy, my dad and him had it out in October, November, and it just escalated. I don't think it ever got physical, but again, I'm only going based off of what my dad had told me. I never talked to that guy, and when I had spoke to the house manager when I picked up my dad's belongings finally, he never mentioned anything to me either about the other guy. So I'm not 100% sure if it was, my dad just saying it or not.
Was there, what we're saying is, was he really truly having a problem with this person, or was this it's just in his head? We don't know.
Correct.
How many times did this topic come up?
A couple times.
Okay. Did it come up when you all had Thanksgiving?
No.
Didn't come up.
No.
Did it come up on the December 6th call where, like you say, it's kind of like you went off the hinges? Did it come up then with that conversation?
No, I don't think it did. I don't remember that ever coming up.
Okay. Do you know if the police ever spoke to this person?
No, I do not.
Nope. All right. So we really don't know much more than that. He says he's having a problem, brings it up with you a few times, and that's about it. Of course, you're living in close quarters like that. Of course, we have people with prior issues, with mental health issues, drug issues. Maybe disagreements and things are more likely to come up. So it's not crazy to think you could have had problems with somebody there, right? Certainly could have happened.
Yeah. Something could have, yeah.
Okay. And do you know if this other guy, continued to be at the sober house after? Did you ever see him again when you would go over there?
I only seen him at one time. When one of the times that I had dropped my dad off, he was outside. Other than that, I'm not 100% sure if he had stayed there or if he had left. So I'm kind of clueless about.
Okay.
My dad kind of kept me in the dark for the most part when it came to that house. Mm-hmm. He didn't. I don't know if it was because he was trying to protect me or if it was just he didn't want me to know certain things. My dad was he wasn't secretive, but he wasn't voluntarily willing to talk about certain stuff around the house, about the house, or about the people there. I'm not sure why. I never really understood why.
It's one of those things, unless you specifically asked him a question, he wasn't going to bring the topic up.
Correct.
Okay. Regarding now, when you found out about this hotel or these couple of hotels, where it seems, how did they know that he'd stay there? Because he used a credit card or something, or what?
So my dad had SSI. He had it on a card that he would get every month. Now, my dad would always take the money off of the card at the beginning of the month. He never left it on there. Maybe like $6, if that he would leave on there at the beginning. But from what I was told is that the house manager or whoever spoke to the detective had told the detective that my dad had stayed there. And then I was told by the detective to go down to the hotel and see if they'll give me the surveillance to see if he actually was there or not. And I'm like, well, I have the receipts, and I have the receipt that states that he did stay at the hotel. I guess he wanted me to go down there because he felt like it would have, maybe if I went down there, they would give it to me without having to go through like the court system to get a warrant or a subpoena or whatever you need to get to be able to get access to surveillance, I guess.
Yeah.
Because I had asked them multiple times, I'm like, there's cameras everywhere. You guys live in the city. There's no way within 2 weeks that you can't go on to the city surveillance and try to like, okay, he was at the hotel at this time, and look at all of the surveillance to see where he could have ended up or what kind of vehicle he got into, or if he got into a vehicle, or if he just rode off into the sunset.
Yeah, I gotcha. The funny thing is, my experience of 9 years and almost 400 disappearances, it's actually the opposite. Police are much more likely to get video when asking for it than family members are. It's very much the opposite, so I don't even know what they're talking about. They're asking you to do this. You're the ones who have the uniforms on and the guns. Not me. Not you. So, all right. Did you ever go down there with like a flyer that you have and ask the people who work there, hey, have you seen this guy?
I know my stepdad, Tim, did, because when we had went around and I had about 10 people, maybe less, helping walk around downtown New London, where, you know, I was told that he had went to frequently, and to go hand out flyers and just post them up on buildings and the poles and everything. I know my stepdad went over there. I did not.
Okay.
And he had told me that he had asked the person that was working there if they had seen him, and the lady at the desk was just like, I've been here 10 years and I've never seen that man here. And it's just like, okay, well, maybe you weren't working that night or that day.
Any idea?
That's it.
All right, so nobody down there says, yeah, we know, yeah, we saw your father down here. No, you know, we saw.
No.
Okay.
I mean, I've had people. There was a diner that my dad had went to a couple of times, and then the library. They remember my dad, but they don't remember seeing him around that time or since then.
Okay. All right, so this seems maybe still dead end. As best as you can. First of all, how did you get these receipts? How'd you get them?
From all of his belongings that he had.
Oh. Okay.
Which I'm guessing from the belongings is that he went back to the Solber house before he disappeared, after staying at the hotel, because the receipt was at the Solber house in his belongings.
Yeah. Okay.
So when I had went and gotten all of his belongings, I remember text messaging the house manager and asking him, hey, did my dad come back to the house before he left? What did he take? What did he leave? Like, I have all of this stuff. Where is all of his medications?
Yeah.
I only have the lithium that he was on and a antibiotic, and I believe one other thing, and I think it's a steroid. I was like, where's his tablet? Where's his bike? Where's his phone? Like, where is all of his stuff that if somebody just vanishes, where is all of this stuff? Well, your dad had his black backpack. Now, I remember the black backpack because we bought it a month prior to him disappearing, and he was super excited about being able to ride his bike with a backpack and he can carry his stuff in it.
Yeah.
So the guy's like, that's all I know is he took his backpack with him. I don't know what he had in it. And I'm guessing he had that stuff with him. And I'm like, but you have access to his medications. Why do I only have these medications, but the other ones I don't have that I know could be worth money on the streets?
Yeah.
And he didn't answer me. And I haven't heard from him since.
But there is a possibility your father took him with him?
There is a very good possibility.
Okay, well, let's hope that happened.
Yeah.
All right, but so now that we're talking about his stuff, there were things that you thought should be in there that weren't.
Correct.
All right. But the things that are missing besides himself are this tablet, so like an electronic device. I'm guessing his phone. We're going to get to the phone information eventually. But his phone's missing.
Yep.
Okay, and not all, but some of his medication is missing.
Correct.
All right, and his bike is missing.
Yes.
How about his wallet, ID? That stuff's missing as well.
Yep, his wallet is missing. His card is missing as well. His EBT card, his EBT card and his money card that he gets his SSI on as well is missing.
Once you found this receipt that had for this motel, first of all, maybe I should ask you this. You said it were like two different places he might have stayed?
Yeah, let's see, I can't.
It's right. If you don't have the names, or you don't have to get into the names, just two different places. That's fine.
Yeah.
Do you get the idea that maybe he'd been there before? Like going back well back into 2019, if not 2018, or what?
There's a possibility, but I'm not 100% sure on what he spent his money on 90% of the time.
Of course. Okay. Didn't find any, I guess what we're saying, you just found receipts for December of 2019. You didn't find a receipt for August of 2019.
No.
Okay. Being that you live there and most of us do not, what would you say the reputations are of these two places? Shady motels or?
I'm pretty sure the one that I'm thinking of that he had stayed at it looks like a nice hotel, but I mean, from what I've heard, I'm sure people have stayed there that are drug addicts or other things or pot, but I don't understand how or why, with it being literally 2 streets from the police station.
Okay. Yeah, because as you probably would imagine, Paige, when we do talk about disappearances of people who have drug issues, it's not unusual for their last place to be seen or documented as at some hotel or some motel that, well, certain types of people, get rooms there to do certain things. And, that's why I'm asking you this. Is it possible that he was going there to do that? Or he might be open to the idea that he'd do that because he really was having some problem with somebody at the sober house. We don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. This heart monitor. We talked about that. He had a heart attack. Something was put under his skin to monitor his heart. Works on Wi-Fi, but there's like a receiving unit. That's missing as well?
Yes.
Okay, so that would have been something that was set up at the sober house, or that was something that you should carry with him. Do you understand how this system works, or what?
Yeah, as far as I knew, from what he had told me, was it was a device. So the heart monitor was underneath his skin to monitor his heart, and then the receiver had to be plugged into something. So he would either, if he brought it with him, then he would have to plug it in somewhere.
Okay.
For it to be able to read and to send off if it had Wi-Fi. If something were to happen, like if his heart had stopped and for how long. But when I had gotten his belongings, that receiver, I never got, because I remember seeing it on the counter the one time that he let me go into the kitchen, and that's where he had it. So I don't necessarily know if he brought it with him or if he had left it there. But all I know is that this big bulky thing was not in his belongings.
Okay.
At all.
But it's something you could certainly put in a backpack.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you did tell me in our prior conversation that it had, of course, it keeps records, and maybe you had gotten the records of the last time that the monitor had actually been used, or it had connected to this other device. What can you say about that? Or maybe you spoke to his doctor and tried to ping it. If you can ping it somehow.
Yeah, I had gotten a phone call 2 years. I'm pretty sure it was 2 years after he had disappeared from that heart facility, the place that had put it in.
Yeah.
And I had asked the person that had called me about it if he wouldn't send anything off, or is there a way of tracking it or anything like that. And unfortunately, there is no way of tracking the monitor, or the thing in his heart. But if he is near Wi-Fi and his heart had stopped 100% and he is gone and he's near Wi-Fi, it would have sent it to them. But unfortunately, it wouldn't be able to tell anybody where he would be located.
Right. So
and
what
they
was the
hadn't
last?
gotten anything
Yeah,
in a
please.
long time.
A long time. Were they able to give you a specific date? December 6th,
No,
December 8th, December 10th, anything?
no. Mm-mm.
Why were they contacting you after 2 years? It seems like a long time. They.
Yeah, it is. I think they were going through a different a different system or something. I'm to be completely honest with you, that's something that I never really fully got clarification about on why they were calling and why. I mean, the only thing that I can, from what I recollect, is them stating that they're just going through their files and they haven't seen anything in a long time, and I'm just like, that's kind of weird.
It is.
If somebody's got something going on with their heart and you haven't heard anything in over 2 years or even a month or 2 months, like, wouldn't you be concerned?
Right,
I
especially
guess
since, of course, they probably can't reuse the monitor that's under his skin because that's just icky.
no.
But the other device probably has a cost to it, and you'd think they'd want it back.
Yeah. So the one theory that I have with that is, if it isn't, like, if nothing's going on with said person's heart, then it's not going to send any signals to the heart doctor to be like, hey, there's a problem. Hey, it stopped for 5 seconds. Or if there's nothing wrong, then it's not going to send anything that it shows that there is something wrong. So, I mean, that's kind of like the theory that maybe I'm having,
Okay.
or that I've had since, is the reason why that they haven't called. But again, I'm not, that's something that I never really got clarification on.
Any proof, being that once again you eventually did talk to these people, do you have any proof that they ever tried to track down your father, being that they hadn't heard from him? Because once, like you said, usually heart patients get a lot of attention, and there's a lot of follow-up visits. Like I said, I know that with my brother Michael. That they've tried to reach him, or were they not? Did they not think it was weird that they hadn't heard from him? Or they trying to reach him? And I mean,
no, I mean, when I had spoke to the lady and I had said, my dad, I don't know all of his doctors, so I haven't been able to call. And with HIPAA law, it's kind of hard for me to, try to go and figure all of that stuff out. And I know my dad didn't put me down on a lot of stuff, especially things that weren't life-threatening. So he didn't need me to help him with any of that stuff. He was more, he was able to do it himself. So I don't think that, I'm not sure.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to just asking questions here. Make sure everybody understands about this. They call you 2 years later, but you don't get the impression. I mean, they found your number somehow, right? You were on his record somewhere.
Yeah, it was his emergency contact.
All right, so if they're trying to contact him, follow up, you never got a call from him before.
No.
So, okay. Not sure what's going on there. All we know is he went missing on December 6th, and the people responsible for his heart didn't get concerned until 2 years later. Correct. Even though he had a piece of their equipment.
Yep.
Okay. Let's move on to this. Speaking of pings and computers and things, his phone records. Were you able to get those? What can you say about them?
Yeah, I was able to, from having his belongings, I was able to find the box that he had gotten from the state of Connecticut. He had the state of Connecticut phone that he was able to get through, and he had the box, and he had written down his PIN number, and his phone number, and I think the security code was on there for me to be able to log in to his account. And I was able to get records of who he had called. Unfortunately, it wasn't name by name basis. It was just phone numbers. But I know that the day that he called me, he had called his therapist multiple times. And the last phone call that was on there was at 9:06 which was after I had talked to him, and then there was no other phone calls after that.
Zero. None again, ever.
Nope. I was on the phone with my dad for maybe a minute and a half.
So what you're also saying, though, he tried to call his therapist before he called you?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so early, once again, this is 9 in the morning. Early in the morning, so 8 something. He tries calling his therapist a few times, and then he ends up calling you. We've already been through that, and then after that, there's one more phone call, and that's it.
Yep.
All right. Have you ever, of course, once again, we understand HIPAA laws and privilege and all that stuff, and privacy. You ever spoken to this therapist? Did she know that he was trying to call her? Nope. You ever spoken to her about it?
I have called. I call twice a year. I call on the anniversary of him, of his disappearance, and I typically call on his birthday, which is October 25th, so it's not too far from when he disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
But I call. I don't know if she's still there, but I know that I have called, and it's at a church. The place that he would go to for therapy was at a church, which is kind of weird, but
that is weird.
For some reason, I can't think of the name of the place either.
Yeah, we wouldn't want to say it anyway. That's fine. What kind of therapist? What kind of therapist meets patients at a church?
Yeah. So I have called. I've left messages to try to speak with her. I know that when this first all went down, and when I finally had gotten his things, and I was finally able to get into his phone account for me to be able to figure all of this out, I never had her phone number from all of his paperwork. He never had her phone number written down.
Okay. So
I was able to call, and I would leave messages, and I called frequently in the beginning. And I just was like, hey, I'm just trying to get in contact with so-and-so for me to be able to ask some questions. I know that there's, rules and regulations and, the law and whatever, but, I'm just trying to figure out if this person has spoke to my dad or did speak to my dad the day that he disappeared, if something was said on where he was heading or what he was planning, or where do you think his mindset would be, for me to be able to kind of figure out where I need to start looking. And I never got a phone call back. Not from one person, not from a receptionist, not from the managers, not from the person, nobody. Not a peep. And even the detective called, and they never got a response either.
And this is in the New London, Groton area?
So from what I remember my dad telling me is that his therapist was in Norwich, Connecticut.
Norwich. Okay.
How he got there, I have no idea. Because I never brought him there.
How far is the sober house to Norwich? I realize Connecticut's not that big of a state, but still.
Yeah, about 20 minutes. 15, 20 minutes from New London.
But driving a car.
Yeah.
So on a bike, maybe twice, three times that, an hour.
Yeah.
In traffic.
Yep. I know that he never told me that he ever rode his bike to Norwich, as far as he ever expressed. I don't think he ever did.
Okay, maybe they were doing counseling over the phone. Maybe she was making house calls or something.
Possibly, yeah, maybe.
So what you're saying is, when you found the number in his records and you called it, you found out it was a church.
Yeah.
So when the message would be left, it was like, this is the Roman Catholic. I'm just making something up for everybody. This is the Roman Catholic Church of Norwich, Connecticut. Please leave a message. It was something like that.
Yep.
And not even the minister or priest or rabbi or anybody else called you back?
No.
That is bizarre. Does that church still exist? Is it still there?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I know that when I've called, it still has a voicemail, but other than that, I don't know I don't know what goes on.
All right. Here's what I want you to do. You can send me that information. We can't talk about the names and numbers and everything here publicly. Mm-hmm. Send that to me. I want to check this stuff out for sure. All right. So whenever you can, after we're done today, just through Messenger, send me the information. I'll see what I can find out. Okay. All right. So we got this. But we do need to move on to what was though the last. This is probably the thing that sticks out the most regarding the phone calls. What was the last call? After he talked to you, who did he call?
He called her, the taxi service, and then her again.
Okay. Very importantly, a taxi service. Okay.
Yes.
So, did you have any luck with the people at the taxi service?
No.
0.
Nope.
No. How long after he went missing were you able to call them and, hey, it seems my dad tried calling you? How long after he went missing?
I wasn't able to get my dad's belongings until about a month later after me filing the missing persons report. It just the way that the thing for me to be able to be there on the times that the guy was there, it was just the meetup times were kind of just off. So it took about a month after the missing persons report was filed. And then it was about another week. So about a month and a week when I was able to finally get into my dad's phone logs.
Okay. So end of January of 2020. So not long before COVID started. Not long. Mm-hmm. Okay. And when you called them, any records, anybody go into one of those hotels, go into the sober house, did they remember the name Tom Doolan, anything like that? Mm-mm. How long did this phone call last? If you have the records, how long did the phone call last?
From my recollection, for the taxi service, I think it was a minute.
Okay.
But I don't think he actually got through fully.
So maybe.
So I'm not.
Maybe he got put on hold and didn't want to wait. Type of
Possibly.
Thing. All right. On the other hand, a minute would be long enough to say, "Hey, I'm here. Can you come pick me up?"
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we of course with Uber and Lyft and an app, you can do it in 30 seconds. Mm-hmm. So conceivably, if the phone did get picked up at the car service, a minute could have done business in that amount of time.
Right.
Okay, so maybe we might put it together. How far did his phone records go back when you got them?
They went back about a week or two, I think. Mm-hmm. And he called his therapist quite a bit. He called me a lot. I know he called my mom a few times.
Okay.
I know he called my grandma a lot. His mother.
Yeah.
And a lot of the numbers, it was more like a doctor's appointment or like a doctor's place or something.
Okay.
Wasn't able to get a bunch of information on all of the numbers that he had on there.
Okay. All right. Once again, maybe if I could take a look at those. You never sent those to me. I don't think I've ever asked them because I have an expertise of trying to track people down using phone numbers.
My biggest thing is I don't have that phone anymore. I'm currently right now I'm looking on my computer to see if I had ever uploaded them onto my computer.
Well, if you ever get them, you can send them to me. Whether it's today, tomorrow, a year from now. If you of course, I'm always going to be here to help you out, Paige. But
I appreciate
certainly,
it.
When it comes to phone records, I have a lot of experience in that area. All right, so he calls this car service. Maybe he's calling the car service because he wants to go see his therapist. Maybe. That's just an idea. No proof of that. But you did get some pings, too, and the way you described it was that the pings seemed too far apart for somebody to be riding a bike. What do you mean?
So from what I could see on his phone records, my mom's friend was able to do it, but we had to pay, I think it was like $15. So I don't know how accurate it really was. But we had put his phone number in, and it said that his last ping. So when he called me, and when I was talking to him, it said that he was over by the hospital in downtown Norwich, Connecticut. And then when the last phone call had went on, it was in Basra, Connecticut. And if you look at the map of where downtown Norwich to Basra so it's a Route 2, which is the highway that you get onto to get down to Basra, unless you decide to go the back roads. It's a good, few miles from where it said that it pinged when I talked to him to 906. It just the difference in the distance that he had. So a lot of me and my mom and my stepdad and a few other people that I've talked to about things have all there's no way, with my dad being as big as he was, there's no way that he was going to ride a bicycle on the highway from downtown Norwich to Basra, Connecticut.
Right.
And I'm not sure where, because when your phone pings, it pings off of the closest tower, so I don't know where he was between those areas. Was he going the back way through Norwich to Basra? Was he going this way, or what? There's a billion different ways to go to Basra.
Would
the way is through the highway.
Would the phone pings make more sense to you if you knew that he was in a car?
Yep. Yep.
All right, so then we go back to the car service call.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but from those pings you can tell where he was when you spoke to him on December 6th?
Yeah.
And was he? And you said he was in downtown Norwich. That's where the sober house was.
No, the sober house is in New London, Connecticut.
All right, and where was he when he spoke to you?
In Norwich.
In Norwich. And what is in Norwich? I know that church is in Norwich, right?
Yep, the church is in Norwich. There's a hospital. I mean, it's a city. So there's a bunch of things in Norwich. So that's where I got confused when I did see the pings, and where I was I thought he was at the sober house when I spoke to him.
Right.
I would, going through my class, I had to get off the phone. I had to go. So I really didn't have that much time for me to establish any rapport of where he is and what he's doing and what's going on. So I wasn't 100% sure. I mean, I just, in the back of my mind, I'm like, all right, well, I know he's fine. He doesn't have a vehicle. He has a bike. How far is he really going to go? Apparently freaking far.
Mm-hmm. And it is interesting to me that when he was talking to you, he didn't admit that he wasn't at the sober house.
Correct.
Right, so it's... Once again, like you stated earlier in this conversation, he could be a little deceptive. I'm not saying lying, but I think I asked you, unless you couldn't find things out unless you specifically asked him questions. Maybe this is an example of that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Being that, she hasn't been mentioned much, but I realize they weren't married anymore. What has your mother said about all this?
My mom thinks he's gone. She hurts because she wants me to have closure. She is very adamant that my dad would have never just decided I want a fresh start and just up and left me. or his grandkids. He loved his grandkids. All he had was, my boys and me and my grandma and my mom. But so it was, she is very adamant that something happened to him. She thinks something, either he went into the woods somewhere and got hurt, or it was super cold when he disappeared. It was when we had a really bad ice storm. So it was kind of hard it's hard to say, like, if my dad didn't really have good outside livable skills of being able to, like, I'm going to be able to stay alive in the freezing cold.
Right.
So, and with his mental health and everything, and my mom either thinks that either he got hurt or somebody hurt him. My mom does not think that my dad would commit suicide by any means. He talked about it from time to time. I think he tried, I don't know, I think twice, 3 times in my life. But he was never able to actually go through with it. He'd always cry, and he'd always end up getting help and getting himself into where he needed to be. So she does not think that he harmed himself. She really does believe that there's somebody out there knows something, and they just don't want to say anything, and they're keeping it hush-hush. That's just what my mom thinks.
I needed to ask you something going back to the phone records. You had his phone records. You have him calling people. Being that this church, or this woman at this church, we don't know what's going on there. We know that they never called you back. Any proof that they called him back when he would call?
As far as I could see, no. I don't think so.
So, not only...
Because it seemed like there was no activity after that 906 call.
But you said there were calls to this therapist in the days, weeks before.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I'm asking you, is there any proof at any time did they ever call him back? Once again, I realize they're not right in front of you, but just off the top of your head.
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I mean, most likely. I mean, I know he did talk to her a lot. I don't know if it was just because, hey, I just need somebody to talk to right now. Or not. That's a him thing. That's, my dad is, or however you want to put it, that he would have his good days and he'd have his bad days, where, if he was having a bad day, some days he could call me, and, I talk to him and I talk him down, and, you're going to be okay, and we'll figure it out, and, if you need something, I can help you, because one, I was working at the time, so I didn't have a problem with helping him and getting him if he needed food, or, if he ran out of money or whatever. But that, it is kind of up in the air of, I'm not sure if they were calling him back, or if it was just something where he was calling more.
Okay.
I'm trying to find it.
That's all right. We don't have to do that during this interview today. That's fine. But I just like to, she's not. So if you're not getting called back, why was that? If you were calling her, why aren't you getting called back? And so we need to know. Right. Well, was this therapist calling? Was anybody calling him back when he would call? He's the patient. You aren't. Maybe that makes sense. Were they calling him back?
Maybe. I mean, I had checked it about. I checked his phone 2 more times after I found out that if there's no activity for a state phone, if there's no activity during an entire month, they'll shut your phone off completely. Like, they'll disconnect it. Okay. They'll disconnect your phone number. So after a while, I wasn't able to have any records at all, because it doesn't exist anymore.
Right. Okay. Let's move on to this. You obviously knew a lot about his bank accounts, and you know that none of it was touched, right? At least the last time you checked, although it's been a while.
Yeah, correct.
When was the last time it was checked? You could check it.
The last time I was able to check it, I believe, was 3 years ago,
All right.
maybe 4.
Okay.
He had his card that he had expired, I believe, in 2022. I was able to make a change of address for him, so I could get his mail to see if, like, he's getting, because for SSI you have to fill out the paperwork every 6 months, and this is where it gets confusing. For every year that I remember, my dad always had to go to the Social Security office and the state offices and get reevaluated. He'd have to go to the doctors, have them fill out a portion of this packet. He'd have to fill out the packet, and he would have to get reapproved for his SSI money for him to be able to have it for 6 months to a year. Depends on how long they say, hey, we need to wait a year until you get reevaluated. What I don't understand is I was checking his card every month, twice a month, for up until 2022. And he had $26,000. And if for somebody who is supposed to be not able to get it after 6 months to a year, you have to fill out all of his paperwork. Who was filling this paperwork out? Why was the state still providing him with Social Security? And my dad took me off of the forms and everything for me to be able to, like, let them know anything or say anything to them. So I've tried calling them. I've tried telling them, hey, my dad's an active missing person. Can you shut down or put a flag on his card if anything happens? That way, the police are notified, and they won't listen to me because my dad took me off. So I'm not legally obligated to be able to say or do anything, unfortunately.
So what you're saying is he went missing. He should have been, the only way he could continue benefits is if he showed up periodically to fill out the paperwork. Yeah. And he's missing,
and he has to do it in person.
But the money still can, at least back then, continued to be put into his account.
Yes.
Huh.
Yeah, that's where it gets confusing, because it's like, how and why or where is this happening? Because I know my dad always had to go in person. He couldn't just fill it out and send it in the mail. I'd either have to bring him and I'd sit there for 3 hours and wait until his number got called, or, bring him to the doctors for him to get reevaluated by his doctors, and him sitting down with him and helping him fill out the paperwork and stuff. So it doesn't make any sense to me that after all that time, who was filling out the paperwork? Where did the other debit card go? And why wasn't I contacted, or why haven't I been contacted by the sober house or anybody that lives there, that my dad's mail is there? Why hasn't the police gone there? None of it makes sense. None of it. Absolutely none of it.
But we have to remember, but also it's clear, though, nobody was taking any money from that account, right? It was just putting in there. If he had access to it, he wasn't taking any of it.
Yep.
Okay.
The only thing that was ever coming out was his Netflix account, which unfortunately I wasn't able to cancel because I didn't have his password or anything. So.
Right. And we also have to remember, though, you haven't had access to the Social Security account like in 3 years. Yeah. So very well maybe, even to this day, there is money accumulating in that account. I guess there's a chance.
Yeah. And the only way that I'll ever be able to, like, physically be able to do that is if I get the physical card for me to be able to have, because when I call, I used to be able just to put his Social Security number in, which I have on my birth certificate, and to put, I knew his PIN, so I can check his account and make sure there's no activity, because you can check, press 2 for see all activity that's been happening. And the only activity that was on there from the last time there was any activity on there was December 2nd. No, December 3rd.
Okay. All right. So if he was out there somewhere living, for some reason he wasn't accessing the money that he it wouldn't be stealing. He has right to that money. It's his money, and he's not getting it. It was like $26,000 in there the last time.
Yep.
Okay. All right, Paige, as you've expressed more than once, you have your own, during this interview, you've expressed more than once, you have your own life to live. You got married, of course, he walked you down the aisle, you have children, you have a job, of course, you were going back to that job around the time that he went missing. You continue to try to figure out what happened to your father. Of course, you're appearing today. How hard has this all been? That sounds like a lot to juggle.
Some days are easier. Some days are harder. I struggle a lot with it because I've always got that constant wonder of what happened and will I ever get closure? Will I ever be able to look at something or anything and say goodbye if he is gone? I have little to no hope that my dad's still with us. Unfortunately, but I do have a little. I hold on to that tightly. My oldest son absolutely loved him. My youngest son, when he disappeared, I didn't really get to know him very well because he was so little. So, I tell him about him a lot. But my oldest son, he got affected by it too. It's been very hard to try to keep it alive while still living and knowing that in the back of my head, I hear him talk to me in my head and say, I don't want you to worry about me. I don't want you to focus on me. You have your own family. You have your own things to worry about. And even when he was still, even before he disappeared, my dad always just like, don't worry about me. I'm fine. I'm good.
Yeah.
But I still have that lingering constant heartache that doesn't seem to feel any better at all. I just learned to kind of live with it and just move forward as best as I can and to be strong like he wanted me to be and wants me to be. But yeah, it's been rough.
Of course, you got married before you went missing. How has your partner felt about you doing all this work?
Currently going through a divorce.
Sorry, I asked. Sorry about that.
No, you're okay. No, you're good. That's been a thing for the last, I think, 2-3 years now. He's in the Navy, and it's hard for us to be on the same page with things, and with him leaving and being gone and coming home. So but he liked my dad. My dad liked him. He doesn't really know how to kind of articulate how he feels about the situation because he only knew him for a little while. About 2 years before, or a year before. So he never really, he would always be on his video games. So, my dad would always just be hanging out with me and my son. And so it's just, my ex's, he's a different person. He's not, into cars or anything. So me and my dad, we'd be outside and working on the cars or doing something outside with the kids. And he did his own thing. He cooked dinner and whatever. But other than that, he doesn't really know how to help. He's tried helping. He's tried coming out with us and putting up flyers and everything. So.
Okay. All right. Do you have a website, Facebook page, anything like that set up for your father's disappearance? If so, why don't you tell the listeners about it right now?
No, I do not. The only thing that I have is I post as much as I can on my page. I know the last one was, I believe, the beginning of December or sometime around December. I had posted his flyer. He is on the NAMUS database.
Yeah.
and my aunt was actually able to help me with that and get him onto the system. I've actually been in contact with.
So when you say your page, you mean your own personal Facebook page?
Yeah.
Yeah, with your name and last name on there.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. That's all right. Just want to make sure you're, just so you don't have a, it's not like, there's not like a find missing man Thomas Doolan page. You just run everything from your personal page.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay.
Trying to find, where did it go? Aha! My dad's NAMUS. I mean, you can always just look his name up on NAMUS and be able to find it.
You can look up. You can look up his. Just put in his last name, and find him. Of course, I've done that. Of course, he's also on the Charley Project too, the private database that's out there.
Yeah.
CharleyProject.org. Okay.
I actually did not know that.
Yes. CharleyProject.org, run by a woman I knew. Her name is Megan. She's been doing that for a long time now. Maybe 20 years, something. But he's on there. His pictures of him are on there, and she has a few paragraphs written up about him, if you want to look that up. Yes.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to know. I know if you Google his name, a bunch of things. I mean, the few articles that are out there come up.
It does come up. Right.
So, I mean, I don't really have a lot of help when it comes to trying to find him. But the little help that I have had has been astronomical, and I genuinely really do appreciate you reaching out to me and wanting to help and shed light on everything and just try to help me get answers.
You're very welcome. It's what I do. I'm always looking for people to talk to. It's my work. Interviewing people like yourself. I mean, I will admit that we don't have many. Of course, it's been a few, but many children looking for missing parents. You would probably realize it's more the opposite. Parents looking for missing children. But so that maybe the situation, you being the guest and your father being missing, unique within Unfound's catalog, but certainly I've done that before. Certainly. So I'm always looking to people to talk to, whoever knew the missing person the most and has the most information. That's who I want to talk to. And
I wish I had more information to be able to give. I know my dad was kind of a secretive person at times and with things. I kind of wish he wasn't, because then maybe it would help me a little bit more. But unfortunately, I don't have a lot to go on, and I feel like that's kind of like where the detective is running into, from what his words were, is I'm running into a brick wall. There's nothing I can go off of other than the last ping was in Basra. And so it's I don't know, it's frustrating.
Any insight into why your father would have been, what is in Basra? Had he ever been there before? Did you know him to go there before?
No, I mean, I know he's done a couple of driveways in Basra, but I don't think he knew anybody there as far as from what he's ever told me. I know it's on the way to Colchester, which is where I live. It's where a lot of his friends and stuff live. I have searched high and low in Colchester of anywhere that I would think that he could possibly go in town. And there's been nothing that I've found, so.
Okay. All right. Well, Paige, I appreciate you being on this episode of Unfound.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And that was my January 13th, 2026 interview with Paige, daughter, in fact, only child of Thomas Doolan. I thank her for joining me and all of you on this episode.
After the interview, Paige got back to me regarding how the Thomas was getting kicked out of the home story got into the media. She believes that got started by her mother, who did a media interview at the 1-year anniversary of Thomas's disappearance. The mother said that leading up to Thomas's disappearance, he had been telling her that he feared getting kicked out of the home. Why? That answer is unknown, and Paige was not aware of this talk between her mother and father until she brought up the Thomas getting kicked out of the home story to her mother after we did the interview. I hope that clears the topic up for all of you. It does so for me. Before the public release of this episode, I was not able to get to the bottom of the therapist at the church topic. But it does sound unusual to me, especially since no one ever called Paige back, not even as a courtesy call. Hard to understand. From the phone records, though, we could infer Thomas wanted to talk to his therapist that morning. Maybe because he realized how his mania was upon him. And if we put that together with the call to the taxi company, we could infer that he was getting a ride to the therapist. Yeah, if it were only that simple, we've learned how much logic doesn't really work for these cases. What actually gets my attention most about this case is the proof that Thomas was being deceptive about where he was living. Remember the receipts Paige found from 2 different hotels. And Thomas did not tell her about this. In fact, you heard how she thought her dad was at the sober house when she spoke to him December 6th. Yet the records show that he was not there. Does this mean Thomas was having problems at the sober house? It could, but being that he wasn't there when he called Paige, this makes it much less likely that if foul play occurred, anyone from that place harmed him. Since Thomas was deceptive about this, then who knows what else he could have been misleading people on, including Paige. In fact, with Paige trying to find her father, this could also be a process of finding out about her father. And that's the program. A reminder that you can find my in-depth analysis into the disappearance of Thomas Doolan at patreon.com/Unfound Podcast. I'm Ed Dentzel, and you've been listening to Unfound.